Oh, it's such a shame those have to be hidden back in underneath the radiator support bracket and the front bumper cover because those are works of art and just gorgeous.
There's always a plot twist. Pulling into beautiful Golden, Colorado on a Friday night for my match at Colorado School of Mines. 1 mile from the stadium, I just happened to glance down, look at the instrument cluster, and it says, low coolant, turn off engine. No temperature issues on the thermostat on the dash. Made it a mile to the parking lot, get out, and found I had a trickle of a leak of coolant coming from the plastic end cap tank on the radiator. 270,000 miles almost on the Volvo V70 2.4 turbo, affectionately known as Ragnar the Prancing Moose. And to my knowledge, that radiator's original. We're about to soon find out. But that gives us an excuse. While we're in here, we're going to go to the do88 aluminum oversized radiator. And since I'm in there, we're going to pull off that radiator support. We're going to do it from the top. And we're going to put in a do88 intercooler, the oversized improved airflow intercooler. So that's where we're at. So always something new that you didn't expect. So when I pulled into the parking lot and popped the hood, checked, and my coolant level was sitting right at the min, right where my fingernail's at. So it still had coolant in it. It just obviously wasn't the proper amount. Looked around, and I did find that just down in here along this left side, oh, you can kind of see a trickle down there. Do you see a little bit of liquid right there where it's shiny? Right where that light is pointing. Let's see if I can put the flashlight right to it. Oh, hose gets in the way. I'm looking at what you're looking at this time, so maybe I'll get better at this. Right there, there's a little trickle. So it had a little bit more than that, and it had just leaked out enough and caused the tank to go low. So it wasn't the hoses. Checked both hoses. It wasn't the thermostat. It wasn't anywhere on the back of the engine with the turbo. It was right here along that plastic end cap. It made it quite a life. So that's where we're at. Left the stadium at 9:30 or so at night, and made it another mile and a half to 7-Eleven, where I bought a bottle of this handy dandy, all they had, coolant. And it says right on here, I think it says ready for all cars or something like that. All vehicles, right there. All vehicles, 50-50. I know it's not the Volvo good stuff that's in there. Or in my case, I use the Valvoline, whatever that is. But anyway, so, but it's not the European specific. But in a pinch, it was the right now. I almost didn't find this at 7-Eleven. It was on the last end cap that I looked, and I was about ready to head back and just get a gallon jug of water. So anyway, made it home, no issues. Matter of fact, it lost barely any. Maybe the distance from the top of that seam on the plastic to where it's sitting right there. That's all it lost the entire way home, another 25 miles. But today, I have another game in Denver, and I have no van available and no cross-country available. The family has those out on other errands. This car has been sitting. My older daughter actually took the bus to get to Boulder for work today. She's going to bus back and forth. And I need this car to make it to Denver for one more match night. It should make it. I'm going to bring that jug with me. My eyes are going to be glued to that thermostat. And if it goes low again, I'll just fill it back up. But it's a little trickle on there. And we're gonna improve this. It's pretty common those plastic end caps break on these. They just crack and have a slow leak. They're crimped on there with a little sealer, and they eventually just fail. So it's normal. To my knowledge, that's the original OEM radiator. We will find out when it comes out. Tire front climp's gonna have to come off. This radiator top support's gonna come off. We'll have access. We'll straighten out and get the whatever that is, the condenser, right, for the AC. But this car's been an absolute champ since January when I replaced the throttle body. Yep. And I think, what else was it? The mass air pressure sensor, or whatever that is, down in there on the air inlet tube, the two sensors. I replaced both of those and the throttle body. It's been an absolute champ. It drove to... Wow, it made it to Dallas, Texas. No issues in March. In June, it went to Nashville, Tennessee, Marshall, Illinois on the way back. 3 days later, all the way back to Kansas City, Missouri and back. No issues. This car has been an absolute champ, but I have noticed, especially in Nashville, when it was 100 and some degrees. Any stop and go traffic or spirited driving on the highways, and the intercooler was heat soaking, and you could actually see it diminish the performance of the air conditioning. So hopefully in this whole process, we're going to improve all of that, all in one fell swoop with the do88. Express shipping, because this thing's got to drive me on Saturday. Got some big matches coming up in a week. So Monday night, Monday afternoon, this is all coming off. The do88 is supposed to be here on Tuesday. It's going in, and this thing's got to be wrapped up and put back on the road. Coolant's draining away, and got to take off the whole front bumper cover, so I got to pop these brackets, pull off the front V70R front fascia. Bumper cover is off. There's where we're at, but I got a question for you. Just reading the directions, and it said to pull off the silver cover separate from the mounting bracket. Leave the two 10 millimeter bolts under the trim, go through the holes, leave them in until you pull that off. I've never done it that way. Is that how everybody else does it? I just put it all on and off as a big unit. That's kind of interesting. Chime down below, people. Let me know. Little Pantera in the background on YouTube Music. Headlights are out. Opening it up. Now the radiator bracket's coming off. This black part across the top. Super simple. Just a bunch of bolts. Pile's continuing to grow. Fan shroud is in there. Radiator, when it overflows the radiator, it flows back to the reservoir. That's off. That hoses off all the inside. I believe this cap is off the top that holds the sandwich. This is nasty. Nasty, nasty stuff. Vallejo radiator Volvo. So I don't know if it's OEM or not, but I took the cap off. You can see down between the two. I think next up is I have to take off these transmission cooler lines that are part of the radiator. So that one's up on the top. That's the return. Wait, this is the hot coming back, and the cold's on the bottom, I believe. So I gotta get those off and tap that shut so it doesn't get contaminated, and I think we're gonna be good for our radiator to come out. Just showing you the top of the sandwich. So we have the condenser, right? Condenser for the, is that right? Condenser for the air conditioning. Intercooler, very thin. And then the radiator on the back of the sandwich. So they are gross. Absolutely disgusting. I don't think they've ever been opened up. And it's getting real now. I got a wood brace on the jack holding the whole assembly of the sandwich. I got to take off 4 screws on the back of the radiator that are holding it to the intercooler. And then there are 2 screws, 2 on the bottom of on either side, mounted from the bottom, that hold the whole sandwich onto the, down there. Where are those 212s? They're right there. Right there. These 212s. I think they're 12s. At least that's what it said in the book. But earlier it said 8s and I had 10s. So who knows? And then the condenser's staying. AC is staying in the front. Note to self, I only had that high enough so I could get underneath it for the supercar tray underneath. To get underneath it. When I put this back together, that needs to be much higher in the air to make this a lot easier. It wasn't pretty, but I managed to get it out. Look how gross this air conditioning AC condenser is. This is the reason I'm doing it outside. I know you guys are probably thinking, like, what's in the garage? But the garage is empty. Waiting to roll this in. Gonna have to push it in. Because this is a while you're here, and it is huge. I want to clean this. Get this air conditioning working much, much better. That thing's gonna get cleaned out. I was never able to get dirt to flow out the back because of these sitting behind it in the sandwich. The intercooler sitting there. Fairly clean. Pretty light. Pretty thin. And then this is the radiator. That is disgusting. That's some OEM original 2002 dirt. That is just disgusting. Air wasn't flowing through that. So yeah, going to get this cleaned out because now when I use the air conditioning cooler stuff and the backside is looking pretty good, I can blow it all the way through and get this completely clean, get all of the fins straightened out before I put the sandwich back together in the garage. Ooh, quick update. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows done. I have it hanging in the 8th, so I'm about ready to start and go across. There's about 10 to 11 rows that are sitting down here below in the opening on the bumper cover. The rest is behind here, and then it gets blocked by the eggshell grill, so they're not nearly as bad. But just got to get this bottom section cleared out. You can actually start to see light through it. See that? You're looking through it. So mechanically straightening things out, pulling out some tar and some bugs and some rocks, and then we'll get the rocks out of up here, and then we'll get the tar out of it with some cleaner. Getting closer. Just tedious sitting here listening to some music in the nice warm fall air. All right, YouTube, it's been hours. That's as good as I'm gonna get it mechanically with the pick.
Straighten them out. I think I did 11 rows on the bottom. Up top, I just did areas where it got hit, whereas it came through the grill. So now let's chemically clean it. All right, I've spent probably 2, maybe 3 hours mechanically and degreaser, flooding it with water, blowing air compressor through it, getting that condenser for the air conditioning clean. And here's my thought. That needs to have the best airflow possible, because no matter how pretty these do88 radiator and intercooler are, they're not doing diddly squat unless air is coming through that, because in the 3-piece sandwich, that's in front. So let me show you where I'm at. It still looks kind of dingy, but let's see if I can do this. See? I got light coming through. Is it perfect? Nope, but it's the best it's been, and I've tried to clean this thing a few times. Last year I had this foaming, let's see if I can get this right. I had this foaming, yeah, it's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. It's gonna work. It's way better than it was. I'd say 90% of it was clogged up last time. Or today, sorry. I'm tired. When I was starting this, at least 90% of it was like black and dingy and just gunk. There's gunk all over the driveway. It's gross. All right, time to bring this thing inside, and we're gonna start reassembling it. I think I'm ready. That's nasty. Hope to never see that again. That's the old piece of junk intercooler. Bad airflow. Yeah, this stuff over there in the corner, way better. That's way better, way higher. Now I just got to transfer the bushings I pulled off of the old radiator. Broke the plastic tabs to get those out. Got to transfer them into there and bend the little aluminum tabs to hold them in place. And we'll start going back together. Should be easy to get to the bottom and lift it up in through here using the jack. I have plenty of space now. No issues. There's my toes. All right, creating the do88 sandwich. Radiator in the front, or radiator in the back, just like it is in the car. Intercooler in front of that. Sits behind the condenser on the AC. Gotta get these mounted together. Actually, there's no way to bolt them. Yeah, I think I'll zip tie it for now until I get them in there. Gonna zip tie the 4 corners. All right, the do88 sandwich is zip tied together. 1, 2, 3, 4, tight on each corner. I don't have any of the spacers between them. They're just sitting nice and flush. I know washers are going to go between them, but I'm going to get it in, held by the jack from the bottom. And then I'm going to, one at a time, pop the zip tie on one corner, get the bolts through with the washers one at a time until it is mounted to this bad boy. That's my plan. That's the plan. Actually, it's going to go in first. It's going to mount with its 12mm bolts into the bottom of the frame. It's going to hang. That's going to make it a lot easier. I just got to get it up. So the jack's going to come in handy right about now. Yeah, not filming this live because I don't want all the cuss words on YouTube when I drop it and damage the fins. Let's see what happens. Eyeballing this up, I wanted to create as much space back here as possible. These are just loose wires. There's space there. This is rather flexible on the coolant lines. So I put a couple more bungee cords pulling the condenser forward. So I think that gives me enough space to slide this in underneath and get it on the jack. That was not easy. The jack is holding it all up. I wedged everything through, got it up in there, reaching from the top, pulling it up. This side had to go first and get on top of the AC pipe, which is right here. Had to get around that little nook. Bent it just a wee bit to make it a little bit bigger. Now I got to figure out and read the directions. Do I mount? I think the bolts go through the sandwich, and then it all mounts to the frame. Or is it the other way around? Mount the radiator to the frame, and everything comes up to it. Not sure. Got to figure this out. It's sitting in by jack's holding all 3 in the sandwich. They're all separate right now, except for these 2 are put together by zip ties. 4 zip ties on the corners that I can easily access and snip out 1 bolt and washers at a time. All right, still precariously supported by the jack. I dropped it once, had to redo it. Held it with one hand, reached down there with the other, pulled it back, got the block on there, got it back up. What I did is using a bunch of single-use plastics, I changed my double sandwich zip ties to the triple sandwich zip ties. So this is all held together in all 4 corners. All 3 of these are sandwiched together. No spacers, no bolts, just the zip ties, and it's held on the jack. Now I'm going to get the radiator up high enough to put the 12mm bolts into the bottom, and then we'll get all these to line up. That's the plan. Let's see how this proceeds. I'll give you an update in a little bit. It's getting late. Oh boy, that was a mistake. I didn't put the barrels in here. Now I gotta get these far enough apart that the barrel can slide in there, that the screw goes through so they can all slide and they can expand at different rates. Forgot about that. So I got two, the bolts are in the bottom, they're very loose. I think I'm gonna do one, let it hang on the bottom, see if I can pry these apart far enough to get a barrel to slide in there from the front. Oh boy. Jack is out, just hanging on two 12mm bolts in the bottom on the bushings on the radiator, and two zip ties holding these two to the radiator. Crack those two zip ties. I have just enough play here where I can get this barrel to slide in here, and it just sits inside like that. I'll re-zip tie it, do the bottom ones, and then we'll get all the washer spacings and get this thing lined up right. Oh my goodness. All right, that wasn't that bad. Both barrels are in the intercooler, inside the intercooler. No bolt through there yet, no washers. Re-zip tied. Now I'm going to snip the bottom and do it down there. All right, all four barrels are inside the intercooler slot. No washers, no nut through there. Just two zip ties on the top, one on the bottom. That one I couldn't get to line up. So I'm going to start here where it's easiest to get them to line and start doing the washers and the nut through this one. And then as I go around, I think it's going to get easier and that one will finally line up. That's my plan. That was fun. Bolt head right there. One washer underneath the bolt head. One washer between the radiator and the intercooler. Sleeve, the bolt's going through the sleeve. Two washers between the intercooler and the condenser. And it screws into the condenser. It is in there. It is screwing. It can slide around in here. This is a ovalized groove all the way through. It's a little tunnel, so they can expand at different rates and move without cracking each other. And yeah, one down. That one next. Over there. And the second one on the top is done. One washer on the back with the head of the bolt. One between the radiator and the intercooler. Two between the intercooler and the condenser. And it's coming through. I just threaded it with my fingers, just lining them up, pulling them until they go through nice and easy. This one's threaded through with my fingers. Still loose. They're still wiggly. Let's go do the bottom. They should be lining up better. Damn, YouTube, that wasn't easy. Let me get under here and I'll show you. Just to prove it that I did it. Alright. Right here. Washer on the bolt head. Washer between the radiator and intercooler. In through the sleeve. That's the hardest part, actually. Two washers between the sleeve, inside the intercooler, and the condenser. Let's go around to this side. Show you I got it on this side too. Woo! Not easy. This one was easier. That one over there, driver's side, bottom was the hardest. Just didn't seem to want to line up. This one was really quick. But yeah, they're all in here. One washer, two washers, two washers, 3, 4, right there. We are done. Let me tighten these up. They're all on. Had to loosen them all up to get that one to line up right. It wasn't hitting its little threader thing here on the front of the condenser. So it's all done. They are all tight. Now we're going to pull this into place. It's still loose because it's just hanging from the bushings. So we're going to tighten up the 212s ones right there. They're upside down going that way. Right here. That bolt. And there should be one over here. Right there. Nope, down there. Right here. This one. Right there. There has been much progress and celebration. Yelling and whooping. It is, what, 10 o'clock at night probably? And it's a beautiful night out though. Hearing the crickets. Saw a mouse run through the garage earlier. That was fun. I know these need to be bent. It says about 12 millimeters towards the front of the car. Towards the front is what it said. So I'm going to wait and get these bent now that they're mounted here. I'm going to bend them once I have the upper radiator support back on here and I know exactly. We'll just do a test fit and get an idea of where it's got to go. But everything's going back in. I got to figure out what's next. I think it's just opposite of removal at this point. So interesting enough, I did notice that it's only going to have the plastic plate on the top, not the bottom. I don't know why that is, but it doesn't have it. So on the bottom it doesn't have these 3 holes where you can put the little rivet in, the little popper. Let's see what goes on. Alright, on the bottom it has no holes. Does not have these little divots for the little plastic poppers. Nothing on the bottom. So can't put a seal, one of these airtight seals on the bottom. This was the one that went on the bottom, I'm positive. And this is the one that went on the top. Doesn't work. Doesn't fit because of the thickness of this guy. Ironically, the bottom one will line up with some holes. Sort of. Oh, it does. I'm going to put it on there. Hot air rises, right? Let's keep it moving through. Better than nothing. Plan B, they're not going on top or bottom because these little divots aren't big enough for any of them to fit in, and it doesn't line up. Yeah, the little plastic things that came out are too big to go back in. So we're going to leave it without, and we'll just let air, maybe it'll keep it from getting so cruddy. It's not going to be as good at airflow though, because stuff can get out. Much more progress in the last hour or so. Transmission cooler lines are attached. The hose for the intercooler intake coming over the bazooka. The bazooka's not attached yet. Had to get this fan shroud in first, but the bottom is in. It's not super tight. The intercooler to the throttle body, that is mounted up. This is in. I gotta get all these tight. Yeah, I gotta figure out where all these lines go and get them all tucked in nice and neat. Oh my god, YouTube, I've been wrestling with this black plastic piece. Just sits behind the bumper crash bar here. I got it on the outside of the condenser. It used to be on the inside, but it doesn't fit in there. Maybe it's just because this is sandwiched further. But I got it just on the outside. It's making good seals everywhere. The problem is it's supposed to have 2 pins. It never had any when I pulled it out. It just fell when I pulled it out before. I got 1 pin on this side. This pin I have the hole lined up perfectly. I'm shooting light through it and I can see it lighting up in the gap here where my finger's at. But that, one of those little push pins will not go in. I don't know if the hole's not big enough or the hole wasn't drilled out or what, but it will not go in that hole. I'm giving up. It's got 1. It had none before when I took it apart.
Much later.
Oh my god, YouTube, it's almost 3 in the morning. I have it back together. Didn't do a lot of videos because I'm honestly just getting tired. Got the blue hose now coming across on the overflow from the top of the radiator. Radiator's all in. This is all bolted on. Headlights are in. Brace is on. Everything's in there. Can't even see the fancy silver bits anymore. They're in there. You can see that part of it right there. This. You know that's not normal. Blue hose coming across to the radiator reservoir over there. What do I got? I still got to have this hose left. I think it comes from the turbo into the bottom of the tank somehow. I think that's where that's coming. I gotta figure this one out. I'm not sure where this one's going, but it's for this overflow radiator reservoir. It's on the back side of it somehow. I'll figure it out. Alright, YouTube, how do I look? I feel exhausted. It's 3:25 in the morning, Friday morning. It is back together. I got some trim to put on it. I gotta fill it with fluid. It doesn't have any coolant in it. Hoses are back on. All the hoses are snug. I need to get coolant in it tomorrow. I don't feel like doing that tonight. And we probably lost some transmission fluid with the radiator replacement since we had some of it drained out, but not a lot. So we'll have to top off the transmission fluid in the morning. I'm gonna go take a shower and go to bed. I'm exhausted. Be safe out there, YouTube. I got it back together. You can do it. I spent many hours fixing that condenser for the AC, and that really set me back, and then getting everything to fit was not fun running solo, but it is in there and I'm looking forward to seeing how it works. I'm exhausted going to bed. I will see you on the flip side. It's a new day in the shop and I've filled the coolant with Xerex Graveline G48 over there. Filled it up to just a little bit above of the ridge here, or the seam in the reservoir, and then did some squeezies on the upper radiator hose, burping some air out, and it sucked it back down. Before I start it up, I am going to do a quick oil change while I got it up in the air. It's super easy to get to, so yeah, a little bit. It's about 300 miles early, but let's just get it done now. All right, oil change is done. Well, filled up to halfway between the low and the high marks. When I drop it back down after it's run, I will check it again. Still got to do the transmission fluid, but I'm going to let it start. We're not going to get this thing hot. We're just going to let it... I'm a little bit afraid to start it up. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it was really late last night. But I've checked all the hoses. Everything seems tight. Everything's ready to go. It's time to start it. Let's see what happens. All right. Going to have to trust me. It runs. It was fine. Oil, that's easy. Oil change is no big deal. I walked out. I was going to take a picture of it running. right when I looked at the coolant reservoir and it was almost to min. Actually, it was just below min. I walked back to the car, had a warning, and I turned it off. So it was sucking all that coolant right in. So fill that bad boy back up. There it is. It's running. I filled it back up. I saw some bubbling coming out of here a second ago. Or just some waves. Not bubbling. It's not a head gasket. Not like the minivan. Anyway, not sucking it through as fast as it did before. Sounds great. Oh, I love the sound of this. Oh yeah. Now today's the fun part. All goes as planned, no leaks. We're taking it out for a Swedish tune-up. All right, you can hear it popping and cracking. I just turned it off. Got it up to temp. Not all the way to where it sits in the middle, but it was pretty close. Set inside, gave it some love revs. Came outside, walked around, and it decided to suck a whole bunch more coolant. And when it did it fast. I'd already heard it open the thermostat. You can just hear that shock to the engine as it's operating. It just kind of has a like stumble when that thing opens up and it gets the coolant coming into the engine. It just seems to stumble sometimes. Or, you know, it's not a stumble. I don't know. You can just tell when it opens this up. So anyway, it had opened up. I gave it the love revs and then walked out here, and it had instantly sucked it down to min. Went in, turned it off right now, and yeah, when it decides to suck that coolant through, it really pulls it in. And it's back on its own 4 feet. Feels like a lowrider at this point after having it up so high. Yeah, it's good to go. Letting it cool down on a cool cycle. It's sucking some fluid through already on the coolant. I'm going to check the transmission fluid oil over there and the transmission fluid now that it's level. Top them off, and we'll take it for a drive. All right, I was running out of the Xerox G48 for the Volvos and headed over to O'Reilly's, which is sitting right there, that building. This just happens to be the parking lot for Cars and Coffee every first Saturday. And I think this Saturday is the first Saturday? No, next Saturday is. No, I don't know. One of these Saturdays is the first Saturday. Anyway. Yeah, actually it's next Saturday. Yep, this Saturday is the 31st. So anyway, filled it up, just bought this, pulled out of their parking lot, and made it literally that far before it popped up on the light. So maybe 3 miles from my house. It's doing its job. It's not leaking. It's just sucking it through as it heats up and goes through a cycle. It seems to be when I give it a little bit of gas and the water pump just surges, it burps it out. So no hard driving yet. I still need to get the transmission warmed up and go back and check its level again. And then we'll take it out for a Swedish tune-up. It's a beautiful Friday. Time for the Swedish tune-up. All right, YouTube, we're in the flogging lane. My favorite Swedish tune-up route. South Boulder Road, heading back to Louisville, up that big hill way up there. No issues so far, but I haven't really punched it completely, so let's see what happens. Can't go too fast. Boost was up to like 9-10. No issues. No, just went. Didn't feel like it's being retarded at all on the timing. 78 degrees Fahrenheit out, but sunny and climbing. Temperature is doing great. Time for a car wash. This thing's been sitting outside for a couple weeks or a week with Lagatha having the broken back window. Check out that Battle Scars video. This thing's getting a car wash. It is Friday. I need to drive to Fort Collins and pick up my daughter from CSU. So this thing's gonna get some extensive highway time this afternoon. In the heat, it'll be in the 90s. Gonna drive it, I'll plug in the OBD2 and do some comparisons on what I see on temperatures. So just last week when I was driving to that soccer match, hoping I would make it on Saturday night after I had the coolant leak in Golden on the cracked radiator. Temperature outside was like mid 90s, low 90s. The temperatures that I remember were coolant temperature was like 96, engine coolant temperature, and intake air temperature was 44. That's Celsius. So keep record of that. We'll check it when we get on the highway and get this thing opened up. Transmission feels fine. I checked the level. Didn't really seem to drop it that much. So I'll check it after the trip to Fort Collins. YouTube, Ragnar is running great. It just got the car wash it deserved. It's ready for some spirited I-25 driving to Fort Collins and back. Test this thing out. It feels amazing. Be sure, jump down there, hit the subscribe button to Jamie Cars. There's more to come. There's a bunch of videos coming on the XC70 and another video on the Previa. So stay in touch, jump down there, click through.
Appreciate it. If I can do it, you can do it. Be safe.
It works! Just check the live data, and outside engine coolant temperature was 88. Last week, about these same temps, I was driving to a game, and it was, if I remember right,
in 1 mile, turn left
96.
on East County Line Road.
And today, it's down to 88. And then the intake air temperature was at 40, and it dropped to 39 at one point, and still sitting at 39. So that's, it was at 44 last week. So that's 5 degrees Celsius. That's a lot. That's significant. So huge success. Be safe out there, YouTube.